He's obviously a very important leader at CBS. At the same time, these allegations are really serious. They did take place many years ago, and at the same time, does that matter? And so they've got a lot to weigh here. And the question is, which one should he be there, have a temporary fill-in while they're being investigated? They're right in the middle of a fight over what happens to CBS and Viacom, and so it's incredibly complex, the things they're weighing at this moment in time. So there's all kinds of things going on. I don't know what I would do if I was a board member. I mean, I do actually. But they have to do the investigation and find out exactly what happened and then make a determination. And until then, I don't think we're going to know anything.
You just said you know what you do. I've been asking everybody to play board member today. Jeffrey Sonnenfeld, Kay Koplovitz. So you do it. What would you do if you were a board member?
I'd put him on temporary leave until the investigation is over. That's what I would do. And then I would see the conclusions of the investigation. I don't know what else you can do. If, especially since CBS and Les Moonves has been so outspoken about zero tolerance of this kind of policy, I think that's probably what you have to do, just on a temporary basis, and then go with the investigation, and then put it against what Ronan Farrow wrote, which was Ronan's been like stellar in terms of this reporting and on point. And so I would wait till then, and then move from there, but allow the investigation to go forward and allow Les Moonves to have his chance to defend himself. And to do a fair hearing of what happened there among the women who were impacted and everything else.
Yeah. And as I pointed out, of course, you never know. Allegations tend to come after the initial story as well. Kara, I want to get your take on Facebook.
Sure.
I'm happy to have you this morning. I mean, it's down 4%. Of course, we know lost over $120 billion in market value last week. This is not an insignificant loss today. What is your reporting and your colleagues at Recode? What actually went on during the course of this quarter that they would change their guidance so drastically? Do we know?
Well, I think the increasing costs of what's happening, this content, they've got content moderation, they've got all kinds of increasing costs everywhere across Facebook. So I think as they begin to sort of unwrap what had happened with Cambridge Analytica and other things in the company, I think the costs have gone up significantly. And at the same time, people are using different parts of Facebook as all these services, they change. And, I think they saw a move of more people into Instagram, that growth was plateauing in the U.S. And at the same time, sort of this confluence of situations, including a bad, I don't want to say public relations problem, but that's what they have. But it's also born out of behaviors that they have been doing at Facebook that has created the problem. And so I think all at once, all these things, they begin to assess and pay attention to the cost of sort of this high growth business without a lot of checks in place. And now they're going to have to pay for it. I mean, sooner or later, everybody pays the price, right? The bill comes due, and I think that's what's happening here.
They're clearly grappling with all of these big issues and how they're going to control it. This weekend, suspending Alex Jones of InfoWars for 30 days without actually suspending the InfoWars page, which also has spread false information. Right? I mean, do they have a handle on this? And is Facebook more vulnerable to these types of issues and privacy issues than the rest of them?
I don't think it's ever going to stop. This is a human race. And you know what? They're not a private company. They're a public company, but they're not the government. And so not clear why they can't make very clear rules and stick to them. I mean, I think that's the problem is because they aren't making incredibly hard and fast rules or making tough decisions. Like Disney fired Roseanne Barr. Like they don't want to seem to go all the way. It's a 30-day suspension, but not the pages. It just I don't know. I'm confused by it. And then you have the British report that came out over the weekend, talking about how they were not very forthcoming with information. This stuff can spin out of control, and there'll be a million versions of InfoWars going forward, and they've got to get a handle on what they want their company to be, I guess, in a lot of ways.
Yeah, and the other piece of this, of course, especially when you look at Facebook earnings last week, is GDPR and the effect those new privacy rules in the EU are having on some of these internet-based companies. We did get more rhetoric, more commentary from regulators, for example, in Europe in the last couple of days. Do you expect that to get even more stringent or even tighter on Facebook and some of its competitors?
Yeah, I think they were suggesting a number of regulatory reactions that were pretty stiff. And then it's a question of whether it's going to, bleed into the rest of the world, especially in the United States, which has been one of Facebook's biggest markets. And so, what will regulators here do? There's definitely, there's a lot going on in this country, and there hasn't been a lot of regulatory action on Facebook, but there's hearings coming up here. And the more they stay in the public eye on these issues, the less good it is for their business. And they're less able to be innovative around their products, which I think ultimately, I've always talked about this, this is not what's going to hurt them. What's going to hurt them is the lack of innovation in their products. And so their eye is not on that ball, and they cannot, with all this distraction, they cannot focus on products. And at some point, someone else will come up with a better product, because that's how it always happens.